Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello, we're starting soon. We just get people in. You still have some few minutes to proceed. Okay, so just
All right, that's fine, sir.
yes,
Can you
thank you.
hear me, though?
Yeah,
Can
I
you
can
hear
hear
me?
you clearly. I can hear you clearly.
Fantastic. Good, good.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you very much. Yes. Okay, so let's just be patient for just some few more minutes, and then we will go into our second class for today. We already have many of us joining in. That's also very, very encouraging. So we'll just wait a little bit more time, few minutes more, maximum, maybe we give ourselves like 2 or 3 minutes for those who are still trying to jump in, because today we have a lot to do. Yes, our facilitator, Dr. Adedo Afolabi, is already here, waiting for us and ready. All right, so in the next 2 minutes now, we get into business. Yeah, I'm still admitting a lot of people who are just still joining in. So just because they're coming in, let's just give them some time. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That one is your code. Your code.
Don't say you don't need this thing.
Na this thing I dey find. Pick.
Eh?
Na guitar pick.
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 You say you pick.
Yes, akumoni o, brother.
Wa. Wancan Ritz.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, I think we need to kick off now. And I know a lot of our students are still joining in. Well, probably know everyone is trying to get settled. So thank you again. Yes, thank you, Mr. Akinjile Bolaji. Thank you again for coming for this second class. It shows that we really got a lot of value from the first class that we held. And it also shows that a lot of us are really, really taking our transition, knowledge building into cybersecurity very seriously. Yes. And if you recall what I said last week, that this skill that you're gaining has a lot of potentials, believe in me. There's no matter where you are in any part of the world, cybersecurity knowledge, cybersecurity competence, cybersecurity is currently a skill shortage. Yeah, in almost every society, almost every country, whether it's Africa or Europe or America, because of the growth of the internet, and then the internet keeps growing and we keep on growing. So why will anybody not take you serious if you demonstrate a lot of cyber security experience, and you have to start from scratch? Yes, my hope, my plan is that things will grow pretty fast. And so it's good for me to also explain our roadmap here. This first session is introduction to cybersecurity. This is to give us an introduction into what cybersecurity is. And last week you saw that we had a very, very, very good lecture from our facilitator, Dr. Adedoyin Falabi. He took us into, well, a very, very concrete, solid entry point into cybersecurity. And let me tell you, cybersecurity cuts across every field. Whether you are into food, whether you're into agriculture, whether you are into electronics, whether you're into business. In fact, recently in my office, I was teaching my students who are talking about substations. We're just trying to look at the process of power electronics that we use, the generation of electrical electronics. And in the textbook I was using, there was a whole chapter dedicated. Yes, we are talking about supervisory control and programmable logic controllers. So these are pure hardware, electronic, automation, robotics. But there was a chapter dedicated to cyber security inside the book that I was using to teach. So to tell you now that everything cybersecurity is very, very critical. Even if you are building an app, try building an app. Maybe you go to ChatGPT or use vibe coding or some of these low code environments to want to build an app. And then you ask the app to give you some of the functional requirements the app should contain. You'll be shocked that the app will not first start talking to you about user experience or UI and UX. It will first hit at security, because cybersecurity is very critical as long as we are in the cyberspace. So you can never go wrong. If you're a student of policy, you're a student of management, you're a student of engineering, you're doing MBA, even if you're undergraduate, you're a student of sociology, whatever it is, you can never go wrong having cybersecurity skills. So we are not going to stop here. Like I said, we're going to have this class, and then we're going to have the concluding class just for introduction of cybersecurity next week. And after that, we are now going to move to cloud computing. So it is very, very important. If you really want to do well in this field, you cannot leave anything else. Later on, our facilitator is putting together some intermediate course that will push us into things like penetration testing, that will solidify a lot of our hand skills with a lot of labs, proper laboratories, of which he's going to demonstrate some of those labs today. So you see, we mean business, okay? Proper laboratory. So it's not going to stop here. Very soon, we're going to show you our academic websites, where you can also get a lot of information. So know that we are more committed to this. So I don't want to waste so much of time, because Dr. Deya has told me that we need a lot of time today to be able to get what he's going to show us to continue this teaching. So please let us get ready as usual. And of course, as he's teaching, putting your questions, we're going to have a more robust conversation next week. This will wrap up this part, where we are going to discuss the aspect of career, we're going to discuss the aspect of certifications, and what is next for those of us who really want to go into this field. We've had contact from a lot of people, bankers, organizations who are interested in what is going on here. So hopefully everything is going to move on Yes, we have a very, very good number of 30 people are here. That is excellent. That is excellent. So without wasting much time, Dr. Dedoyin, are you ready for us?
I'm always ready.
Oh, yes. Well, I know you're always ready. Ever since I've been working together.
All right.
Always
I'm always ready.
Thank
I'm
you.
always
So
ready.
because I don't want to talk too much, I said
Yes.
15
So,
minutes, but let me cut the 15
yes,
minutes
sir.
short.
So I think you have to, I've sent you a request to give me permission to share my screen. So
Yes, that has been
that's your
done.
approval. Yeah, thank you very much.
So let me put you on the
So,
spotlights. It's
good.
excellent. All right. So thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you for the introduction that you just gave. So how I'm going to, how this, first of all, let me just confirm that you guys can see my screen before I maximize. Can I get a couple of yeses that, yeah, you can see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yes,
Thank you very
yes,
much,
yes,
guys.
yes.
All right, guys. For the purpose of this session, it's going like I told the Engineer Ushe, I'll need a bit more time today because of I actually want us to go through some practicals. At least I want us to complete the first two stages of penetration testing. Of course, it's an introductory session, and I don't want to. I'm not going to throw you off balance. I'm going to try as much as possible to explain things as detailed as possible. But when I'm explaining things and I'm trying to go through the practical session, feel free to write down your questions, whatever you did not understand. And this session is recorded anyways. So if you need to get the benefit of the recorded session, feel free to speak to Engineer Lucio, and I'm sure he can get that across to you guys. Okay, so without wasting time, I'm going to last week I started with, I'm going to have a very brief lecture. The lecture is not going to last for more than 20 minutes, guys. So I don't want to bore you with so much talk today, all right? I want us to do more practicals. So the reason why I broke down last week's session, I said that you guys are going to see the benefit this week. And it's very, very encouraging that you guys came back to come and say, hey, what's this guy talking about? So the attack phase is what we're going to be discussing today. All right. So I started by discussing the defense phase last week. So just a brief recap of what we did. I'm not going to go into too much detail. So if you have missed that session, please feel free to speak to Engineer Lucio and you can get all the information that I talked about last week. So this encapsulates most of what I discussed last week in terms of the defense phase. And I said after that phase, we have to move into the other aspect of cybersecurity, which is called the attack phase. Here, we're going to discuss what are the types of attacks that are available, that are out there, all right? I'll discuss what we call assets. In the types of attacks, I'll also discuss what we understand by threat actors, right? Because threat actors tend to differ in technical skills, resources, motivation, their actor skill, and other things. So there are different things that separate the types of threat actors you're dealing with. Then I'll discuss what exactly are these cyber attacks trying to get at. All right. So we're going to be discussing like assets, vulnerability, risk, and threats. All right. I'll talk about the differences between all of them. But like I said, I'm not going to take too much time in the session so that we can go into the practical phase. Then I go into the OSI model. We wondered, but we discussed this last week. Very good. What I'm discussing here is not the entire stack of the OSI model. I needed that explanation to help you understand what the defense phase consists of. However, in this phase, I'll focus on the 4 layers that are predominantly exposed to attacks. All right. So that's where cyber criminals or hackers tend to try and target whenever they're trying to get information in a particular organization. Then we'll talk about the protocols as attack surfaces as well. What are the major protocols that are usually very conversant or very frequent to attacks? All right. We'll discuss that very quickly. Then I will end with the attacking, what I call the attack summary. So the hacking stages. So I broke down the hacking stage into 5 stages. Different books, different blogs, journals, articles might define it in different ways, but it still revolves around the 5 stages I talked about today. So for the purpose of the practical, we're going to, after discussing key takeaways, then we'll go to the practical session itself. So I'll share my screen, go into a virtual machine. I was able to subscribe to LabX so we can do some practicals there. I'll also show you a search engine called Shodan. We'll do a couple of operators there to see how it works, and that will then summarize the class. So like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and I'll try not to be too fast. So first things first is, what is a cyber attack? I defined it here as a deliberate malicious attempt to compromise digital systems, networks, or users to gain unauthorized access. The key word there is unauthorized access, all right? So it's very important that whenever you're trying to design a system or define a system, you are trying to allow authorized access, all right? And we talked about that in the confidentiality, integrity, and availability we discussed last week. However, whenever an unauthorized user is trying to gain access to either steal information, cause damage, or disrupt operations like denial of service, then we see that as a cyber attack. Now, in a technical view of cyber attack, we have what we call the initial access. What does that mean? An attacker gains a foothold on the target environment. This can be passive or it can be active, all right? Like I said, I'll discuss that a bit more when we go to the hacking stages. What does the passive mean? I'm trying to gather, before I start any attack, I must have a target in mind. So for instance, now, I'm a hacker and I'm looking to get some maybe financial benefit from one of the banks within the United Kingdom. First of all, I must know the bank I'm trying to attack. I must start gathering some basic information about that bank. So of course, I'll start engaging different tools. Most of us we use search engines like Google, ChatGPT. All of this can be under the initial access. However, when you now start to start testing the information you've gathered, it now starts becoming a bit active. I can hear a bit of feedback. Okay, it's clear now. Okay, good. So when you now start trying to test whatever information you've gathered, you're now going into an active stage of the attack, trying to know if that information, if that IP address is clear, or if that port number is actually working. Does that service run? Is that webcam live? Is that remote desktop operating? That's when you go into the active stage. So after initial access, we go to what we call privilege escalation. So we're expecting that at the initial access, you'll be able to get what we call vulnerabilities available onto that particular system. I'll discuss what vulnerabilities is in a lot of detail when I get into assets vulnerability, so you know exactly what it means. And I'll give us examples when we're going through the practical sessions as well. You will see examples of vulnerabilities of how you can actually then exploit them. We'll see all of that in the practicals. So after you've done that, so the objective of that first stage is to gain unauthorized entry into the system. So I've gained access to certain information, an IP address, a remote desktop address. I'm able to get maybe a running service, an operating system loophole, whatever information I was able to get, I was able to then put it into use. I'll mention some of these tools that can be used to do this. There are so many of these tools. Trust me, guys. We can't learn everything even in a year. To be honest with you, that's how much. I think Kali Linux has about 600 and something tools. So much tools you can use to do different tasks. And I'll mention some of these tools and tell you exactly how they work. All right. Of course, user discretion is advised. Whatever I do, I'm doing it to teach you exactly how the cybersecurity work. Whatever you do on your own personal time, that's your own. I have to put that disclaimer out. All right. Then after that, we go into what we call privilege escalation. So I'm expecting at this stage, you've got information, I've been able to give you some certain type of access. So then you want to now try and escalate the kind of advantages or permissions you have within that system, right? So you've got access to a particular software. Can I shut down the software? Can I copy more information? Can I log into other aspects of the network? That's what we call privilege escalation. And you can only do that. There's a particular tool called Metasploitable. We'll discuss that when I get into the final slide. And that tool actually helps you to break down a vulnerability and tell you what possible advantage that vulnerability can give you. Right? All of this you can find. I'll talk about resources where you can get that as well. Then finally, the last step in the technical summary of a cyber attack, you have what we call persistence. So now it's not enough for you to gain access and escalate your privileges or escalate your permissions within a network if you're not able to stay in that network. You must be able to stay in that network for a period of time, because for instance, you might be there for 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 year, 2 years. So sometimes cyber attacks take a very long time before they're able to manifest, because you have to monitor the activities of the network to know exactly when you can then get access to the sensitive information that you want. So for instance, it can be a continuous denial of service for about 6 months before you're able to then divert whatever information you want to divert to another location. Like I said, I'll give you some breakdown when we go into the final slide, which will break it down a bit further. But that's just like an overview of what a cyber attack entails. So it has an initial access stage, a privilege escalation stage, and finally, you have to be able to stay, not able to persist, to make sure you're actually getting in or staying in. Now, what are the types of attacks? I'm sure some of you might have heard about this. I just tried to break it down. Like I said, cybersecurity is a very broad topic. Same with cyber attacks. There are so many types of attacks. I just picked some very popular ones that are predominantly used amongst cyber attackers. All right. So one, we have the malicious codes. So what a malicious code is, or what we call malware. Okay. There are different types of malware. You can have what we call virus. You can have a worm. You can have a Trojan. You can have a logic bomb. There are so many types of malicious code or malwares which can be malicious codes. What they just do is they have different functions of how they operate. For instance, I tend to categorize worms as independent malwares, while I categorize viruses and Trojans as dependent. What does that mean? A worm doesn't need human intervention to escalate itself, while a virus or a Trojan needs human intervention to escalate itself. A good example of a virus is you're visiting a very dodgy website. Next thing they tell you that you should click this to download whatever information you want to download this software. And once you download the software, then it's then able to come into your system to act on behalf of whatever code has been programmed to do. All right. So some of it can be it wants to steal data, it wants to encrypt files, whichever the case may be. So while dependent do not need your permission to allow or deny before it's able to escalate. Does that make sense? Very popular example of the of a very popular worm. It was the wannabe. Was it wannabe cry worm attack happened a couple of years ago. So that was a very good example of a worm attack that affected several servers before they were able to then get access to the kill switch that stopped it. So, but that's the example of what a malicious code entails. Pretty much the idea is to get into a system or network, steal data, spy on a user, disrupt services, and so on and so forth. Now, the very popular one we know is the phishing attack, right? For the guys that want to go into the career of SOC analysis, this is going to be your area. You must be, like I said, you must be very conversant with the OSI model and know exactly where this phishing attacks comes in. For instance, when you have a phishing attack, they'll be expecting you to know what layer is going to be involved in that attack. Is it the application layer? Is it the network layer? And so on and so forth. But what's the idea of a phishing attack? It's pretty much sending a fake email that will add an extra plugin to it or an extra payload onto it. So we get all these emails all the time. I'm sure some of us are wise enough not to accept emails from dodgy websites that we don't know. Now, what constitutes a dodgy website? Most times you must make sure you pay attention to exactly what the URL address is saying. But sometimes they can try and mix it up a little bit to try and confuse you to get you to download, and before you know it, it causes other malicious acts on your system. Pretty much that's what a phishing attack talks about. Now, we also have what we call the DDoS, which is called the distribution denial of service. All this, we also have the denial of service. The distributed denial of service is just multiple computers. So denial of service is you are trying to block authorized users from getting access to their system. And what does this entail? It means that you are trying to send, for instance, what we call a synchronization flood onto the server. So you're sending multiple requests to the server. It keeps processing those requests, even if they are fake requests. And unfortunately, an authorized user that is actually trying to get access to the server is denied. That's what the denial of service is. When you're doing it on multiple computers at the same time, or multiple systems or servers at the same time, it becomes a distributed denial of service, right? So the result usually is to slow service down, to crash systems, and also legitimate users will be denied access. And we also have what we call the injection. So this the unsanitized input execution. So this occurs when untrusted input is executed as code, right? So common queries are the SQL query and the command injections as well. So the attack exploit will poor input will try and stop access database, modify data, and also execute system commands that you've not authorized. Like I said, guys, this is not all the examples of attacks. There are different types, but the one you can please feel free to read more about cyber attacks and to give you can get more information about it. All right. The next thing I want to just talk about very quickly, that's not on the slides here, but it's very important. It's what we call threat actors. Now, threat actors differ in technical skill, resources, and motivation. All right. So, for instance, we have what we call script kiddies. These are like rookie pen testers that are just trying to play around with some tools. For instance, now I'm going to do some practicals today with you and show you some particular tools. Now, you go back home and say, you know what, I want to play around with these things. And before you know it, you then get unauthorized access to a particular location. And that can actually then cause some consequences. That's what we call script kiddies. They're just playing around with things and eventually they actually cause some damage. We have cyber criminals that their intention is financial gain. Well, that's pretty much the major category of what cyber threat actors are always defined as. We have insiders. So it can be a disgruntled member of staff. I'm not happy with my company anymore, and I want to give them, and I then share information about my company, like personal passwords and other information that can actually help them attack my company. And we also have what we call nation state attackers as well, like espionage. That's like on a more larger scale of cyber threat actors. So that's threat actors is also a very important concept we need to talk about. That's I just had to discuss it quickly. Now, next thing, what are cyber attackers trying to get at? Assets, right? Every organization will have assets. What assets pretty much covers is the different types of valuable equipment to that organization. It can be data, it can be system, it can even be people. Like you guys working for an organization, you become an asset to the organization. So it's very important that the company uses whatever method they use to try and protect their assets. We talked about a couple of multi-factor authentication that can be used just to give you an idea of how all of this tie together. However, aside from asset, there are other concepts we have to understand or know when you're discussing the attack phase of cybersecurity. One is called vulnerability. What does vulnerability mean? It pretty much means a weakness in a system or a network or a server, whichever the case may be, right? So most times, what attackers are looking for is vulnerability. What's an example of a vulnerability? An open port. All right, so what are open ports? Last week, we talked about the OSI model. And I said, for the OSI model to work effectively, as I discussed, you need what we call protocols, if you can remember. And I said, all protocols have what we call a port number. That is how the internet recognizes a particular protocol. Yeah. Now, we have over 65,000 port numbers available. Some of them are not assigned. So in our practical today, we're going to be assigning a port number to our service. Does that make sense? That's the only way you can communicate with that server. Else, the internet is not going to understand exactly what that server is. All right. So all protocols will have port numbers. So an open port becomes a vulnerability for a network or an organization or a system if it's not in use. Right? So it's very important that you are aware of all the different ports numbers you have, or the ports that you have available in your system. If you don't want them to be open, you have to shut it down. All right? Like I said, when we go into the practical, you see exactly what I'm talking about. Then the next thing you want to discuss as well is risk. Okay? Of course, risk is the potential of loss or harm. Not like it's going to happen, but you have to consider it. All right? So all organizations always consider risk, and usually leads to what we call a risk register. I discussed that last week as well. So still very similar to what I discussed last week. So you can go back to last week's session and you can get more details about what the risk entails and what it covers. Now, the final thing will now be a threat. That's when organizations start getting worried. Now, at the point where you are able to get access to a vulnerability, that's a possible weakness, the company is not worried at that point. But the company gets worried when you're not able to exploit that port or that open port or whatever, or a loose end on a software or a particular operating system that has not been updated because that's an uninstalled patch. That's when the company starts getting worried, because at that point, you're not able to now send maybe a virus or a Trojan or something like that to try and be able to then get entry and then start stealing information. That's when it becomes a threat. That is when companies start getting worried. They're now trying to see how they can actually fix the problem. I hope that covers those 4 concepts. So please, guys, feel free to write it down and do more research on it. Very important. Assets, vulnerability, risks, and threat. Those are 4 concepts that you have to understand if you're going to be a pen tester, to know exactly how you're able to deal with those different concepts. Next thing is the OSI model. I call it the attack mapping. So I'm not breaking out the entire OSI model, just to point out very popular layers that are very prone to attacks. So one is the data link layer. And the very popular attack, there's what we call the address resolution protocol spoofing. All right. So this is when you're sending multiple address. I tried to explain it last week how the ARP works. And I said that it pretty much is a layer 2 device protocol that enables the switch to connect multiple computer systems together to know exactly the location of what a particular message. So you can read more about the ARP protocol, the address resolution protocol. So one of the very popular attacks that a pen tester can do is to send multiple app requests. So the switch is continuously processing that. So then it's dropping legitimate packet, all right, or legitimate frames, because on layer 2, we're discussing frames. Right. For layer 3, we have the network IP spoofing. So this attacker falsifies false IP addresses to hide identity or bypass its controls. So that's one of the very popular attacks that happens at that layer. For the transport layer, we have the sync flood. So that's the synchronization flood, right? So like I told you guys, we have 2 major protocols in the level 4, the layer 4, the transport layer. We have the TCP protocol, if you can remember, and the UDP protocol. Now, I said the TCP protocol is used for reliable communication. And why is it crucial? It's crucial because it engages what we call a 3-way handshake. So sync, acknowledgement, and synchronization, a 3-way handshake before communication is established. So if I want to attack a company from that layer, I can send multiple sync requests. So it continuously processes that until and keeps dropping real packets. Does that make sense? Sorry, guys, I'm just getting a call. I have to, from my sister. Can I call you later, please? I'm in the session now. And finally, we have the application layer. So one of the very popular attacks for the application layer is the SQL injection. So this attackers can inspect malicious SQL commands through unsanitized application inputs to try and manipulate that if that their targets, their network, their service, whichever the case may be. So that's just to give an overview of the layers that can be, not like other layers can be attacked. Of course, the physical layer, I can actually get access to an organization and steal their router. That's an attack. Of course, that's a physical attack, but just to get you to understand that these are very common attacks that happen on these 4 layers that are used very predominantly by spy pen testers. All right. Now the next thing is, what is the importance of the protocols? Because I told you guys in the OSI model, all the communication I explained from the application to the physical layer doesn't happen without the benefit of protocols. All right. And like I said, all protocols will have what we call a port number. Right? So now this port number is what is used to identify the protocols on that particular, that is actually used in that communication. The very popular ones we know is the HTTP, port 80, DNS, port 53, and we have what we call the remote desktop session protocol. That's also the port 3389. Sorry, I can hear some feedbacks. I don't know if it's just me. Okay, I think it's gone now again. Okay, so those port numbers is what, for instance, when we start doing the practicals, you'll be seeing more of the port numbers. Does that make sense? So you can, and some of them will give you the protocols, but most times they discuss the port numbers. So the very popular ones that are already assigned are 80 and there's port 22 for, I think, Telnet. There's 32 for SSH. There's 23 for Telnet. There's so many other protocols. You can feel free to go online and search for all the port numbers and the protocols that they're assigned to. And like you said, there will be some that are not assigned, because you have about 65,000 available port numbers that you can have. So in terms of the protocols, very popular attacks we have is the injection attacks for the HTTP. So HTTP is a commonly used, it's called the cross-site scripting that allows attackers to inject malicious script. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'll be taking care of this. Yeah.
Okay, sir. All right. Then the other type of protocol that is the cache poisoning. So simple DNS cache poisoning occurs when attackers inject false DNS records. So the DNS in the domain name server, what pretty much does is convert IP addresses into names. So when we put google.com, we see it as google.com. However, the internet will have to see it as an IP address. So the DNS protocol helps convert it. So it's easier for us to relate with the internet, and also the internet to understand exactly what we're going to discuss. For instance, in the showdown practical we'll be using today, we'll be using the DNS actual IP address to try and see all the locations of the Internet of Things devices that are connected to Google. We'll do all of that when we get there, all right? So that's the example of that kind of attack. And finally, we have the session hijacking. So TCP session hijacking involves taking over an active TCP connection by predicting or stealing sessions identifiers. So it can also be done with the aid of the RDP protocol, which is the remote desktop session. Right, now let's go to the very interesting bit. All right, hope I've not taken too much time. Now, this is, I summarized it as the 5 stages of pen testing. A lot of people, when we discuss cybersecurity, this is their interest. Oh, I want to be a pen tester. I want to know how to use all the tools. But I hope with the explanation I started with last week, coming up to this week, you guys can appreciate and understand exactly why I had to say, hey, you have to start from that phase to understand exactly what you are fighting against and exactly what you are attacking. Does that make sense? Else you're not able to understand it. So very easily, I tell students, for the benefit of your learning, you must know how to use at least one Linux distribution, right? There are so many Linux distributions out there. We have Red Hat, we have Kali Linux, we have Ubuntu. So please feel free to get... So please feel free to get access to one of this. So Kali Linux is a free tool. You can go online, you can download Kali Linux, download Oracle VirtualBox, you can install Kali Linux in there. And the reason why Kali Linux is encouraged is because it comes with pre-installed cybersecurity tools, pre-installed pen testing tools that you can actually use. Of course, if you don't know how to use the tools, they're just tools then. Does that make sense? But it's the same thing like you having Microsoft Word. If you don't know how to use Microsoft Word, It's just a tool. It's just a software. All right. So you have to learn how to use those software. So that's where we can also I've gone over the years in creating different labs to try and get students to know exactly how those tools work. Because trust me, guys, there are over 600 and something tools on there. All right. So please feel free to download Kali Linux, and please feel free to experiment. The Linux distribution we're going to be using for this session is going to be Ubuntu. All right. It's a virtual machine I subscribe to, and so we can just do this practical today, so you guys can get the benefit of what I'm saying. So the first stage of pen testing is called, I want to be careful to get the name now, recognizance. Yes, I used to call it recognizance. My students say, no, sir, it's recognizance. I said, okay, fine. Right. So it's called recognizance. And what does it mean? It pretty much means trying to gather information. That's what it is. All right. I remember, guys, I said you can gather information in two ways. First of all, you start passively. Passively means you can use. I could still hear the. Okay. So it's very simple. So you can gather information passively, then you can now go into trying to test it to make it active. All right. So now, in gathering information passively, you can use even the regular search engines, Google, Yahoo, your Yahoo. You can use Yahoo to try and search for information. However, there's another very interesting tool that you can use that can give you even better information, and it's called the search engine for the Internet of Things. What does this mean? All devices, I don't know if you guys have heard about the concept Internet of Things before, but what it pretty much means is all devices connected to the internet. It can be a phone, it can be a webcam, it can be a remote desktop, it can be a computer, whatever is connected to the internet. This search engine can help you check to show you if it's actually live. That gets very interesting, right? So we'll use a couple of operators on that search engine and see exactly how it works. The second stage of pen testing is now scanning. Now, at this stage now, you are assuming you've got some information. All right? I've got an IP address. I've got a remote desktop location. I've got a port number. Then I want to start scanning to know exactly how it's operating. So you can use tools like Nmap, Nexus. You can use tools like Wireshark. All right? These are all tools that can be used to scan to show if what you've actually got is actually potent, to know, well, can I actually use this to actually try and gain entry? Then the next stage, the next thing you do after that, it's what we call, you can do what we call vulnerability scanning. What does vulnerability scanning mean? It then means that you are trying to use active tools to try and check for possible vulnerability on your intended target. So it means there must be a target. Where do you get a target from? The recognizance. So you have done the first stage, gathered all the information you want about that particular target. Then at the third stage, you're now trying to check for possible vulnerabilities on each of your targets. Does that make sense? All right. So very, very similar to what scanning is doing. But scanning is just going through those information you got from the first stage and giving you more information about it. So you can take that information and go into the third stage of gaining entry to now know exactly what you're going to use. Because in the scanning stage, you will see things like open ports, closed ports, what ports are available, what ports are not available, exactly how the services are running, how long does it run for. You see those information in the scanning stage. So in the gaining entry, now you don't waste your time with unnecessary information. You know, this is not active. Does that make sense? So you use what we call vulnerability scanners to know exactly what are the possible loopholes you can use, what ports are actually live that you can actually explore. So in vulnerability scanners, you can use things like Nikito. We have a Nikito. We have Vega. We have what we call OpenVAS. Those are all types of operating vulnerability scanners that you can use. Now, after you're done checking for open ports, possible loopholes, and you found some information, you then use what we call the Metasploit framework to try and diagnose that vulnerability a bit further. What does that do? That will now tell you just to what extent or what amount of information or how far you can get on that network using that particular entry. That's what the Metasploit framework does. All right. Then after that, you go to the final stage, you call it maintaining entry. So at this point now, you've got into the system, you've got into the network, but you want to be sure that you're able to stay in. You can now use tools like what we call word list. Word list is a text file on what's it called now? It's a text file on Kali Linux, and pretty much helps you with what we call password cracking. All right. So you know there are three different types. There are two different types of password cracking. We have what we call the brute force attack, meaning multiple entries. And we have what we call the dictionary attack, meaning more tailored entries because you have some certain information. So the word list helps with what we call the dictionary attack, which is a bit more straightforward than the brute force. Brute force is just trying multiple entries to see if you can get in. All right. So I pick up my colleague's phone, Dr. Engineer Lucio, and I just start trying his password. That's brute force. All right. After a while, if I don't get in, fine. However, when I now start using a software to give me more possible combinations based on some entries, it becomes a bit more targeted. Does that make sense? Then the dictionary attack is even more detailed. So if I put, for instance, I know my colleague's first name, I know his last name, I know his wife's name, I know his kid's name, I know where he works, I know where he lives. So if I'm able to get all those information in, it might give me a very close enough possibility of what his password is. That's what the dictionary attack is. And the final is covering of tracks. This will involve the using login analysis tools like SIEM platforms and also forensic utilities. Of course, digital forensic investigation is another stage of pen testing as well. I do a bit of that, but that's not what this session is about. But pen testing also uses pen testing and digital forensic investigation. They tend to work interchangeably. So for the guys that want to pick careers in cybersecurity, you don't have to only be a pen tester or SOC analyst and information security analyst. You can also be a digital forensic investigator because you're going to be using very similar tools as well to be able to work in that field. Well, that's discussing career. Like I said, like my colleague has said, we're going to discuss a lot of that next week to give you guys possible openings and possible careers to what you can plug in. Okay, final takeaways. Hopefully, at the over this session, you understand exactly what the defense and the attack phase is. So now, what I want us to do is to go into some practical activity just to get us to do the first two stages of pen testing. All right. Of course, it's not everything, but what I'll do is for recognize, we're going to be using the Shodan search engine. So I'm just going to power that on now and get us to actually use a couple of operators and see how it works. For the guys that have heard about it before, that's absolutely fine. But if you've never heard about it before, it's a free software that's pretty much you can get the free account or you can get the paid account. Can I confirm that you guys can see my current window now? I'm no longer on the slides if I continue.
No, I think maybe you have to share your window, your screen.
Okay.
Yeah, because this show your slides. So probably you only share the
slides.
slide.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's fine. Okay. That's okay. I'll do that very quickly. So let me go to. So stop sharing this. Good. I'll go back and share. Let me go to. So let me share this now. Can you guys see this now?
Yeah, the Zoom is still loading. Okay,
No,
yes. So if you go to the end map now, if you click
Can you see what can you see my window? That's what I want.
Yes.
Fantastic. So now I want to start it from scratch. So I'm assuming that, I don't know, I have a target. I'm trying to look for some information about a possible target. I have no information. I don't have any specific information about the target. I can go to what we call the Shodan video. I've worked with it a couple of times. So it's called shodan.io. You just go into the dashboard and you have to open an account. So you can open your account with a Gmail account. I use Gmail, but you can use other accounts, so then it works. So pretty much this is what the Shodan search engine looks like a regular search engine for what we call like Google, all right? And it has some plugins that you can use. It has the Shodan, it has the maps, the images, the monitor, the develop, and you can go into more. Now, the interesting bit is the explore. So you can use the Shodan dashboard itself. This is what it contains. So this is like preset searches already that are in there. The difference between Shodan and a regular Google is the operators of how you search for things. When we start searching, you see what I'm talking about. So, well, you can also go to what we call the Explore. If you go to the Explore, it can give you possibilities of what you are trying to search for. Because what Shodan does is, like I said, is a search engine for Internet of Things, meaning it connects any device. It will show you any device that is not secure, that is on the public space, that is connected to the internet. It can be a webcam, it can be a remote desktop, it can be anything. All right. So we'll do a couple of searches now and you see what I'm talking about. So for instance, let's start with a very popular one. Let's say google.com. All right. I just search on google.com. Now, it should give me all the information about all the possible servers, remote desktops that are connected to Google that are within this location. So you can check, this is China, this is Germany, this is United States. You can go into more and get even more information. It will give you all the ports, top ports that are actually active port 5001, port 5000, port 443, port 80, that's HTTP. All the top organizations that are using it. Does that make sense? You can see how it gives you, Google is a very general information, of course, so it's going to give very generalistic information. But let me say I want to go a bit more specific to, I'm in the United Kingdom now, and let's say I want to search for all devices connected to, say, the city of London. So now I can do this. I can say the city. I've done it already before. So I use this operator column. The reason why I'm putting two column, like I said, it's not like a regular search engine. You must use what we call operators. So if you just search, I will show what I'm talking about. If I do something like this and I click without putting the column back and I put enter, it will go into the city of London. So to give me all the possible Internet of Things devices that are connected to that city. All right. So if you're in Lagos, you can put Lagos. If you're in Nigeria, if you're in Abuja, you can put Abuja, and to give you all those information, except that device is now connected to the internet. And of course, you can go through the devices and now start trying to go into get more details. So you can go and click on it. It will open the device actually itself and start giving you more information about that device. So this is United Kingdom, it's in London. This is UK next generation cloud server. It's giving you the port numbers that are open. 21 is open and port 80 is open. It's telling you that port 80 TCP is live. It's telling you these are all the vulnerabilities that are available. I hope you're getting the idea of how this works now. All right. So now let's do another search. Let's do another search now. Now I want to use the IP address of Google's DNS, which is 8.8.8.8. You can search that on. That's very, very popular. If I search that now, it's going to give me all the possible DNS, all the devices, all the servers running the DNS server of Google that are related to. If I go back to the regular view, it will take me back to, let me go back to the original page, go back to Showdown, go back to 8.8.8, and I search there. It's coming up, good. So it will give me all, now in this case now, it tells me the ports that are open. Sorry, I can hear some feedback. All right, so with this now, I just, like I said, because this is the first stage of your pen testing, you have to first of all gather information. You can't just start attacking. Of course, in the lab we're going to create a dummy server and use that as our target and scan. Does that make sense? But for this, if you don't have that particular information, you have to get information first. So a tool like this helps you to try and get access to certain information. Let's try another operator. Say, for instance, now I want to see all the webcam that are connected to the internet. Like I said, it's a search engine that connects Internet of Things devices. So the operator for that is webcam. I think I've done that before. Good. So webcam has, so I can give a screenshot true, column true. I click on yes. It starts giving me all the webcams that are actually connected now. So this is a webcam in, what location is this now? You can see some will be in Germany, some will be in the United States, some will be in China, some will be in America. All right. So this is someone's webcam. All right. Of course, it's just for academic purposes. I'm not going to start clicking into someone's webcam and trying to get access to the webcam. All right. So you can see this webcam is actually live at this point now. It's 10:03 in that location. That's the memory capacity of the webcam that's available. That's actually connected now. So this is another person's source webcam again. So the connection is closed. I can go into the webcam and go and see more information about the webcam. But this is in the United States, Louisville. I can go into there. It can tell me the ports that are opened. So it's ports 8,807 is open and port 8888 is open. All right. On that webcam, I can check the location of the webcam, where it is. And you get the idea now, right? So now let's do about two more operators just to get us to. So say I want to check for all voice over IP devices. So voice over IP devices will be like an internet phone. All right. I'll check all the voice over IP devices that are connected onto the internet and know exactly where they are located and get information about them. So the operator for that is going to be device, yes, column voice over IP. If I do that, it goes down and tells me all the voice over IP devices that are connected, giving me their IP address of where they're located. So China has about 226,000, United States about 4,000, Brazil has about 800. So you can get the port numbers that are available to give you the top organizations that have voice over IP devices. All right. So, and it's a very extensive search engine. You can keep if you want to go, it's something that will take time. So gathering information takes a lot of time. But once you are able to do that effectively and get all the information you need, then you can start jumping to the next stages, which will make it a bit easier for you to be able to navigate. So after going through this, let me see if there's any popular voice over IP device that is used. Let me go on to next. Let me see if I can see Polycom. Polycom is a very popular voice over IP phone that is used. So let me just check for Polycom, because Polycom is a very popular voice over IP phone that is used. So I can change the title Polycom. So it will give me only Polycom voice over IP phones. There are other voice over IP phones, of course, but this is a very popular one that you can see. It's very popular. It's about 800 used in America, about 463 used in China. It will give you all the companies that are engaging, that are using Polycom voice over IP phone. You can go into any of the phone. Of course, if you go into any of the phone, you can also try and see if you can get a login, try and do something now very quickly. Of course, I'm not going to try and log in to anybody's phone, but just for academics, so you can see what I'm talking about. Why is this taking time? Just open up already. Let me check something else if that was taking too long. I'll just show you how you can actually try and see if you can get access to a login. 1 minute. Sometimes this is the network going very slow now. Well, typically you should open up. Yeah, it's taking too long. Aha, there we go. So it has opened one of the Polycom phones now. So now with this now, I can see if it has any TCP connection. So if I go into this location now, which is the TCP connection, if I click on that, now my network is denying me from going in there. Of course, if I go and so that means it has it protected. If I allow those my internet has stopped those kind of connections, but I can go there and allow those kind of connections, and you'll be able to get access to it. So pretty much in the UK, you're supposed to protect yourself from some certain type of websites they are not sure of. So whenever I'm not sure of any website, because of my keys and all the rest, I have to deny that. But typically, if you're using an open network, you can get access to certain information like that. Of course, you're not expected to log in and get access to it, but it gives you information that you're looking for. So if you're looking for a particular target, so you keep narrowing that target up until you're able to then get access to certain information that you're looking for. So like I said, this is just one of the tools, and it helps to give a lot of information. The very unique thing about this tool is you have to understand the operator that you are using. So it's not like the regular google.com. You just say, we interact with internet. We say, can you please help me find, you have to use certain operators. Some of them you have to put in columns. So you have to put semicolons in front of them. So you have to put in inverted commas for them to be able to work effectively. But it will give you so many information, and you can explore in your own time. Shutdown.io, it's a free software. You can go for the paid version. The paid version will give you even more access to certain sensitive information. Pretty much that's how it works. All right. So with that now, that's kind of gives us a summary of what the first stage will look like, gathering of information. Now, the next thing I want us to do now is the actual lab itself. Like I said, I subscribed to a virtual lab just to help us understand the purpose of this practical. So what I would do is start over. So just start it over. Very good. Continue so you can power the lab. Just a free version of the lab, just to get us to know exactly what we're doing. So I'm going to continue. Yeah. So let me just refresh that. There we go. So I want to start the lab now. Start the lab already. Exactly. So continue. Why is it not allowing me go in? Oh, 1 minute, guys. One minute, guys. I will stop sharing now. Let me try and, I don't know why the lab is not allowing me to go in, because just give me 1 minute, please. Let me try and resolve this, please.
As soon as possible. I have promised to do the council. The computer will no longer be coming tomorrow.
Doctor, so let me launch it from here. Then I will probably pass the control to you. I think I know what is happening because I think it's the limit of your virtual run a day. So
Yes,
let me
sir.
see.
That was he's telling me. So let me just try and
Yeah, but my only challenge is
I'm logging with a new account, so I'm just thinking that'll be
oh,
easier.
okay, yeah. I think that will work. Yeah, that will work.
Just to show the it's going
Yeah,
to be
that
a very
will work.
straightforward lab. The straightforward lab.
Yes. If you're using a new account, it will work. Else, I can just do this, then I'll pass the control over to you.
Mm.
Then you'll be able to continue. Let me just see if
The lab I want to do is
transfer to
it's a pen testing lab. I want to do it's not the lab, cybersecurity. So, network scanning with Nmap. There we go. So let me share my screen back now. I think I'm back now. There we go. Okay. No, this is not the right lab.
Let me chat you the URL. Yeah, I think you're going to launch it from the link I sent to you.
Okay. He's doing this. Okay, it's starting a lab. That's it. Sorry. Let me share my screen back again. Okay, and I'm there. Sorry, guys. Like I said, it's just a dummy virtual machine, so it only allows you to launch it apparently thrice in the day. I do so. But anyways, to just give us the benefit of what we're going to be completing very, very quickly, let me just show us. So there's like a worksheet that I created. Of course, this information I can share with this facilitator. You can get the information. So what we want to do is very, very simple. Let me just run through it very, very quickly. So what we want to do is we're going to install Nmap. So Nmap is a scanning tool that can be used for the second stage of pension testing. So after installing Nmap, then I'll have to create a server, like a dummy server. Then I'm going to have to host that server. Then that server will give it a port number. After that, I will now be able to use Nmap to scan that particular server to know exactly, to give us the information of exactly how Nmap works. So pretty much that's a summary of what today's practical is going to be about. So I have a worksheet I'm going to be using to go through the process. So if you want to get access to the worksheet as well, I'll share with Engineer Share when you can get access to the worksheets. Sir, can I just confirm that you can see my worksheet so they can see what I'm scrolling through?
Yes.
Fantastic.
I can see the lab X.
Oh,
so I've not
I'm
seen the
sharing.
worksheet.
Okay. That's fine. Let me stop sharing. Share again. This is the worksheet I'm talking about. So can you guys see my worksheet?
Yes, I can see the worksheet.
Fantastic. So this is like I said, this worksheet is not like a breakdown of everything I'm going to do now into this class. So I'll be explaining it as I'm going on. So please feel free to ask me any question if you're confused about anything. You understand? So there's some commands I will copy from the worksheet because it's just faster, so I don't have to go through everything. You get the idea. But pretty much that's how it works. All right. So first things first is to install Nmap. After installing Nmap, I create a server, give it a port number, host the server. After hosting the server, then I now use Nmap on a different terminal to now scan that server. So you see exactly the commands or the prompts that are used on, or the operators used in Nmap to help you understand exactly how it works. And the worksheet goes into detail about explaining each code. So everything I'm doing, I will try my best to explain what I'm doing, why am I doing this, what does sudo mean, what does apt mean. I will try and explain all of those things so you understand what I'm getting at. Right. So I have to stop sharing this now again. All right. So I will stop sharing this now. Then share again. Now I go back to my lab. There we go. Good. Now we're on the lab. Good. So the first thing first is to launch my terminal. Now, in Linux distributions, we use what we call terminal, all right? So by default, you cannot is what we call a graphics user, command line interface, all right? Meaning you're using commands to give instructions, but it works similar to a graphics user interface. That's how Linux distribution works, all right? So we use that to try and impute the commands on Linux distribution. So the first things first now is to use, whenever you get any Linux distribution, the first thing you have to do is to update the version. That's the first thing you do. So it's going to have to become very common practice whenever you're working as a pen tester. So the first thing to do to update the operating system, the Linux distribution, is what we call sudo apt. I'll explain everything, don't worry. Get. What does this mean? Sudo, whenever you are running any command on a Linux distribution, sudo is what gives you administrative privileges. Because if you're not in the roots of the system, meaning if you're not on the main system, you have to use a sudo command. The sudo command is asking the Linux distribution, please give permission for this command to work. Does that make sense? So after I do that, I click enter. It should be sudo apt update. My bad. Update. There we go. So it's going to update the distribution. Once that is done, the next command is going to be for me to now install my Nmap. To install my Nmap. Okay. So now at this point now you see that everything is done. Let me maximize my screen so we can see how you can see everything is done now. So once the prompt comes up this way, it means that it's done everything you want to do and everything. What next do you want to give it? What command do you want to give it next? So the next thing I want to do now is to install the Nmap. So to install the Nmap, I will do the sudo again, giving it privileges, apt install Nmap. I didn't spell Nmap well now. Nmap, but the version I want to install is Y. Okay. Now, what does this mean? So the -y flag is used with the apt install command, so it automatically answers yes. So I'm telling it, did I do something wrong? Oh, I didn't spell install correctly. So you can see it's very, very sensitive, guys. I didn't spell install correctly. So already he said, no, it's wrong. So you have to pay attention to this. Even spelling errors, sometimes the command will not work. So just pay attention to things like that. So you must make sure you get the spelling correctly. Of course, with time, when you're practicing with a Linux distribution, you just get used to it. So with time. Now, it's telling me that it has installed. But how do I confirm it has installed? I have to now check if the Nmap tool is actually in there. And for me to check that, I'll just say Nmap. All right. Dash version. I want to know which version is there. Good. It should tell me Nmap, you can see Nmap version 7.8. The platform is stats. This is the Linux distribution. It's compiled with, this is the version that compiles it. It's compiled without available. So it has given you all the information of, yes, this Nmap tool is actually installed. All right. So now you can now go into the next stage. All right. Now, the next stage of what I want to do now is to now actually set up a what I call a local service for the scanning, because the scanning tool is supposed to scan a particular target. So you need a target. So the target is what we're going to now just run or serve. I'm going to run a local service that we're going to use for scanning. And to do that, the first thing I need to do is I have to first of all use this command. I'm going to go to the worksheet very quickly to get the command because it's just really straightforward from there. I'm going to minimize this. Right? So to get the command from there, I'm just going to get this command, and I'll explain exactly what the command is before I put it in. Good. So paste. Okay, you know what? I'll just type the command in. I'll just type the command in. So the command is make directory /p/home. I'm gonna explain exactly what I'm doing, guys. Libex /project http -server. Okay. So what I'm telling you to do now is very simple. I'm saying that it should make now guys, before you even start pen testing, I like to recommend students that please start from understanding Linux distribution. That's where you start from. So there are labs that you can actually go through that will give you the basics of Linux distribution. You know what that lab will do? It will give you basic commands like what does CD mean? What does mkdir mean? Things like that. For instance, mkdir means make directory. So you're making a directory in a particular location. All right? Just like you have to create a new folder on your Windows graphics user interface. When you say CD means change the directory, all right? So you are changing from a particular location to another location. Does that make sense? So when you go through those basics, the commands will not become strange to you anymore. So you understand exactly what it is. So this command is easily saying that you should make a directory using this -p command. It creates a directory named HTTP server, and it's in a specific path. So to get it, you have to go to /home/libex/project to get that particular directory, that particular file that you've opened. That's what that is. So when I click on that, it's telling me the operator is not make the directory valid. What is invalid or what I did? I'm not supposed to leave a space. Okay. So make directory //. Oh. Is that, oh, that's why. That's why. So go back in, click enter, and that should work. You can see, guys, it's very sensitive to spacing. The reason why I'm just able to figure out what is going on is because I've been playing with it I've been working with it for a bit. So I would recommend you start from the very basic commands, then you can start. But like I said, what I did with the worksheet was to try and give details of even all the commands. So even when you're doing the lab, if you're confused about the command, you can just read what it all does so you understand what it is. Now, the second thing I want to do now is to change directory. I want to change directory, guys. I want to change directory. All right. So now I'm going to use the command cd /home/libex. That's the name of the lab X /project / So I wanted to change the directory to the server we just created. Right? So when I do that and I click on enter, it should be able to do that. Now what I've done now is I've been able to change the direction to that particular location. So now I want to use the language used in creating servers is the markup language, so the HTML. You must have heard about it before. So we're going to use the HTML language now to run the server. You can use the markup language now to. So we're going to use the HTML markup language now to now host that server. So what I'm going to do now is, the command is quite long, guys, so I'll explain when I'm done. Echo HTML, I'll do that, do this. So I would say that's going to be the body of the website, or what the website is going to look like. Then I'll do this again. Then HL, no, H1, I think. H1, and the message should be welcome to the Nmap lab. Then I'm going to have to close that. Then I go /H1. Close that again. /body. So /body. Right, guys, I'm going to explain everything I'm doing once I'm done, guys. HTML. Do /this again. No. /this. Good. HTML. Close that. Then I do /that. index.html. Okay. So now let me run the codes first to be sure it's running fine. Okay, you know what, to make it easier, I'm just going to copy the codes from the worksheet. It's a very long code. That's it. It's a very long code. So I'm going to copy that from here and just paste it. There we go. That should work fine. Good. So now, because it's a very long code, guys, so I just had to just copy the code, so it's just easier for it to work. So now that I've been able to create a dummy server. Now that dummy server, now I've given it a message. So if you want to, for us to know that it's working, once we get onto the server, we must see that message. Welcome to the Nmap lab. If you don't see that message, it means that the server is not hosted. It's not working properly. Well, the next step we need to do now is this. We need to now start the server. All right. So to start the HTTP server, we need a command. The command we're going to use is Python. We're going to use Python 3. Like I said, guys, I know there's a lot of commands now. I'll try my best to explain this spell Python properly. I'm trying my best to explain what you need to do. But with time, you get used to what the commands are about. So Python 3, this is just to start the server. Okay. So I've given the server a message, which is welcome to the Nmap lab. Now I need to start the server and give it a port number. So the port number I'm going to give it is going to be 8,000. All right, because like I said, guys, we have over 65,000 port numbers. So that 65,000 port numbers, there are some that are unassigned. So if you go on Google, you can check for all the port numbers. Of course, I can't give it port 53. I can't give it port 80 because those are already assigned port numbers and it's already accepted generally around the world. But there are other port numbers you can give it and you can give. And the reason why you have unassigned port numbers is for situations like this. You want to create your own server and host your server and give it a port number. That's what those other ones are there for. So for the point of this practical, I'm giving it port 80. So when I give it port 80, I click on enter. Automatically, you can see it says 7 HTTP on 00000 port that. So automatically, it shows like it is already running. So now, at this point, now what I need to do is create a new terminal page. Then I can go and check and know if what I did actually worked. Does that make sense? See what I'm talking about? So I'm just going to go back to terminal, click on terminal again. This is going to open up a new terminal for me. All right. I'm going to open a new terminal for me. Okay, so now you can see I have a new terminal page now. However, if I go back to my desktop, you can see the server is still running. Okay, so let me go back to my terminal. Now from here now, I want to, first of all, I have to check if that terminal is working, if my server is working. And if my server is working, I should be getting the message I put in, welcome to the Nmap lab. So let's check. So to check the server is running, I'll use the curl HTTP TP // localhost Then I have to tell it I'm looking for port 8000 because that's what I use for the practice. All right. So if I click on enter, it should tell me, welcome to the Nmap lab. It means that it's working. So you have to leave that this tab on. So it's like it's actually working live. So then I can do whatever test I want to do on this particular terminal. Does that make sense? You can open as much terminal as possible. But this second one is more than enough to get the job done. Right? So now the next thing I want to start doing now is to start testing or start using the Nmap. So the first thing we're going to do, the first test we're going to do is Nmap. Sorry, I didn't spell Nmap properly. Nmap. So I'm going to use the -st -p. I'll explain exactly what that is. 8000 localhost. Localhost. I'll tell you exactly what that is. Now, what this is doing is very straightforward. The -st is an option that specifies I want you to take TCP connections. I want you to scan all the TCP ports on that local host. Now, the -p80 indicates that we want that Nmap to scan only ports 8000. Does that make sense? Of course, if I can tell it to scan other ports, 1000, 2000, 1, 2, whatever the case may be. But for this first test, I'm saying only TCP ports, that's this -st. Like I said, all these indicators, all these operators that are used, they have their explanations, all right? The shortcuts are used to just make it easier and faster for you to be able to engage with it. So the ST is only TCP ports, then the -p8000 is, hey, just port 8000 of the local host. That's what I want to scan. If I click on that now, it will give me the information in there. So it started the scan. It told me the Nmap scan report for the local host. That's the local host. So the host is there. The host is up. All right. And yes, it's correct. The host is up. So when I go back to, it tells me the port 8000 TCP is open. All right. It tells me other addresses for the local host not scanned. All right. So it will give you information about what you're doing. Let's do some more tests. Another thing we can do again is to use the command nmap -sv -p 8000 8000 local host. Now, what does this do? Now, the -sv says that this option is telling the nmap to probe open ports to determine if there's a service information that can be used. So let's see what it's going to give us. Right. So it's starting. The nmap is scanning. All right. This might take a while. It comes back and says nmap scan report for local host that. So that port is open. It said the TCP is open. It says service detection performed. Please report any correct results. They don't really give us much information though, but it just told us that the TCP port is open. It's the local host, sorry, port 8000 is open. The HTTP service is what it's using. We ran it. Remember, guys, we used Python to actually run the server, so everything is working as it should. Let's search for something that should give us a bit more information. Let's start scanning for. Now we've been able to scan the local host. Now let's now go to something a bit more interesting. Let's start scanning multiple ports. So now I've been limiting it to port 8000, because I'm scanning just the local host. I've been able to establish the local host is running. This is the port number. This is the protocol it's using, and so on and so forth. Now, let me check other ports that are associated with that particular local host. So now the next thing I want to do now is I can start with nmap, very, very straightforward command, nmap localhost. Now, this will come back, this came back with, it's telling you all the other ports that are associated with that particular local host. Okay, so you can see now you have port 22 TCP, port 3001 TCP, port 8000. You can see all the other ports that are actually associated with that local host. Okay, so it's getting a bit more interesting now. So now let's try something more. So now let's say nmap -p local host. That should give us a good. Now, what this is telling us now is the dash P now is saying that the option is telling Nmap to scan all the ports from, guys, remember I told you that we have about 65,000 port numbers available. Of course, some are assigned and you cannot reassign them. But yeah, what this is saying now is check for all possible ports that are related or that are connected to that local host. So it has scanned everything and it has said that there are 4 that are connected to that local host. One is the 22, port 22. I think that's the SSH. 2 is 3000 Nexus. 3 is the 3002, the XM agent. And 4 is the 8000, the ports we are located. So those are all the ports that the local host is connected to. All right. So now we can now try and, we said local host, so that was a very broad range. Now let's try and say, okay, you know what? Scan only between ports 1 and 1000. We can do that, right? So let's try and see how that works. I'll say nmap. No, sorry, nmap. Yes. Using the same command /p. I'll say, and now I want to specify the number 1. I want it to 1000. All right. Local host. Okay. Now it's scanning, and it's saying, okay. It scanned and it said that, well, the only port we saw was port 1, TCP, but it's closed. Does that make sense? So now, for instance, let me try and bring this to get you to understand how this will make sense. In a situation where you're trying to get to a particular attacker and you know the possible ports because you've done your showdown extensively and you have seen possible open ports in that particular system, and you know port 53 is open, port 443 is open, you can now try and start using it to scan to be sure if that port is live as at the time you want to try and attack it. Not attack it, get information from it. You get the idea? Because if you're a pen tester as well, you'll be doing the same thing, but you'll be doing it in reverse. You are trying to know if the port is live, because the fact that I go on showdown and it tells me this port is open, it doesn't mean at the time where I'm trying to engage with it, it's still open. You get the idea? So it's very important that you are checking this. So this is what the scanning is for. So you have to make sure it's actually live. So now it's telling us that from 1 to 1000, the only port that is available is port 1. And the port 1 is closed. It's possible I can try it tomorrow, next tomorrow, and the port is open, and it will tell me open. So at this point, I can now try and see if I use that port to go into my vulnerability scanner, which is going to be the next stage. After vulnerability scanning, you can now know exactly to what extent you can exploit that port. Then you go into your Metasploit table that will tell you exactly what entry points you can use. Then you try and get into that particular set. That's pretty much the idea why it works. But this pretty much tries to summarize the first stage of recognizance, and second stage of trying to now actually scan. Of course, there are other tools like Wireshark and all the rest. And as we go on across the classes, for the guys that are interested, for the classes and the modules and things like that, we'll go into a bit more detail, because then we'll be creating like an actual virtual environment where we'll be testing different systems and so on and so forth, and using more of the tools. Like I said, we have over 635 tools on Kali Linux, and it's something that we can do as much as possible, but it all depends on how committed you are. So at this point now, that will be the session. I'll open up to questions at this point.
Yes, thank you very much. In fact, this is excellent. Even me too, I was sorry. Let me just get this TV reduced. So if we have any question, you can drop it. Remember, we explained that what we are out to achieve here is to introduce us to these tools. And if you also remembered, before we started, I said that there are different aspects of cybersecurity. And you see that Dr. Falabi in the first class taught us about defense, where we had about risk management. Please be quiet. Where we had about risk management. So there are some of you that your jobs will be to carry out risk management for organizations. And that's why I started by explaining difference between vulnerability, what's a threat, and what's a risk. So these are questions we usually ask students because sometimes they can get it very confused, And then now he has shown us a tool, one of the tools. In fact, it was also supposed to demonstrate Wireshark. And mind you, I didn't even know he was going to go this deep into his, but because he's a teacher with a very large heart, and he told me, he's an engineer. No. That when I come to platforms like this, let us do this demonstration for them live. So it was also going to show us Wireshark, which is another sort of a scanning and monitoring tool. In fact, some of you, once you get some jobs into cybersecurity, or you're going to be involved in, like I said, you're using this tool to scan, or you are monitoring. Because monitoring, so there is what we call also passive defense, the kind of monitoring your infrastructures is also a form of active way that you're trying to counter this threat. Okay, so like I said, if you have any question, like I know some of these things are new to us, but now we have seen clearly what we are here for. We are here for serious business. And this training is going to move over for cybersecurity, is going to move over to the intermediate level, where we are still going to pass out registration for those who want to go into that stage. We've had a in fact, a lot of us, close to 40, 50 of us, we are still here, even through the training, to show massive interest in what we are doing, which is very, very encouraging. Okay, Oluwasegun, how do one get the Lab X started? Yes, if you go to Lab X, I think Dr. Falabi is willing to open a free account, isn't it? Just for testing.
Yeah, for practice purposes, you can only play around with just one lab, but you can subscribe and get the pro version and do even more labs. But there are other tools like TryHack that are even more detailed, that you can get more information, and we can also create like virtual environments as well. That there are a lot of things you can do that can get you even more detailed in it. But yeah, that can be a starting point if you like. Yes.
Okay, good. So you should be able to get Lab X started. If you go to Lab X and open like a free account, then like you said, if you want more labs, there are a lot of labs there.
Yes.
Yes, that's it is going to be good. Somebody says, Ephraim, you mentioned that there are ports that are free. Now, if I use a free port when doing my demo, and someone else use the same free port I'm using, okay, Dr. Falabi, yeah?
During the demo, yeah, the thing is that, for instance, now I just hosted that port for now. So once I log out from the lab, is gone. All right. So it's an unassigned port. You can't have it permanently. So this is the reason why, some of the reasons why it is left that way. So if you want a port that you want to have permanently on your server, then you have to pay for the port. Then they allocate that port to you. That's pretty much how it works.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And in fact, part of the training we're going to be doing, the intermediate level, is we're going to be teaching you how to set up Ubuntu on your virtual machine. But
yes, how to get into Linux distribution properly.
Yes. But I think the good thing I'm happy for is that because of system resources, it is also possible. Like you said, try hack me. There are still some of these tools that are web-based versions that you can still get very, very much detailed hands-on experience. Please, if you are creating your CVs, put everything that we have said today. Don't be afraid to tell people you attended a training and you are shown port scanning, you are taught about attack, you are taught about defense.
We talk about the recognizance.
Recognizance, yes, which is
mention showdown. Mention showdown. They will know what you're talking about.
Exactly. Some of us will get scared unnecessarily. What if they ask me a question? Yes, if they ask you a question, you answer the one you can answer. Yeah, exactly. And that is how it works. Yes. Okay, so do we still have any more question? So we are still going to stretch this for 15 minutes, because last week, as I was told, that we ended too abruptly and that people had a lot of questions to ask. So that was why okay. So meanwhile, while we are waiting for questions, I'm going to paste. So like I said, you understand, this is just a taser. You know, we've seen there are a lot of these tools, and there's a lot to learn if you hang around with these our trainings. So I will seriously advise you, don't be discouraged. You know, this is just the beginning of a journey for us. So while we are still trying to scrutinize, so I'm going to paste a quiz here.
Yeah.
The quiz is just general, part of what he taught last week, part of what we did today. And I would like us to start answering the quiz. I just hope there's no settings there that will stop us. And as you're answering it, I'm going to be looking at our responses from here. Yes. And at this
So
point,
let
I
me
will
stop
let us.
sharing. Let me stop sharing so you can.
Yeah, so I want them to work on the quiz on their own. Then.
Oh, okay, sir.
Yeah, so
Okay.
if you want, you
Okay,
can
sir.
still stay. And then
Of
when
course,
we.
I'm here.
Perfect. And so when we come next week is also very important because we are still going to, next week we are going to have more final discussions, like a kind of revision session. Yes. Any question you have, you will come with it. We are also going to give some critical information. Yes, we are going to have a robust revision, very technical. Any question you want to ask, what is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of that? And then we're also going to give opportunity for those who want to come on video and also share what they have learned and what they also know. Yeah, there's nothing bad about that. Okay. If somebody asks a question, so next week is going to be interactive, but we are going to touch proper revision on everything we've talked about. And then next week, I'm also going to be now giving us like this similar quiz. But next week, I will also I might give out the quiz. I will send it to our emails before next week. It's a kind of short assessment because we don't want to issue, I don't know, should I call it dummy certificates? You know, according to Dr. Falabi, who gave the advice that no matter what, before anybody gets a certificate, you should at least complete a simple assessment. Yeah, simple assessment is nothing complex. So once I send the assessment to your emails, once you've completed it, the same email will tell me I've completed the assessment. Then at least we'll pen you down for eligibility for certificates. If you don't do the assessments and you want certificates, this one is not certificate of return. I don't have certificates of return. No matter how small it is, you complete a simple assessment. Yes, and then we'll be able to issue you certificates. So next week, please, is very, very important. Hello, can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, excellent. So, like I said, so next week, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have interactive session. We're going to have a lot of question and answers. We're going to revise what we've done. We're going to discuss about careers. And then, like I said, before next week, we're going to send assessments to our emails because we don't want to issue dummy certificates. We want certificates to have a bit of credibility. So whatever we send to your email, you will respond to it. Once we know that you've gotten your response, then we know that yes, you are eligible for our certificates. Okay. So, but it all starts from following this quiz that we just dropped. Please let's engage with it. In the next 10 minutes, let's engage with it. The next week is going to be very interesting. And next week, you can also bring your perspective. You know, you can come join us on video, bring perspective, and if there's any question we ask, we can also answer it together. And somebody is asking, how do we use Showdown to scan misconfigurations? Yes, so can you use Showdown to scan misconfigurations?
What do you mean misconfigurations? What do you mean
Yes.
misconfigurations?
Yeah, I think I have an
If
idea
person
what
can
it means.
okay.
Yeah.
If person can expand on what he means by misconfigurations.
misconfigurations, maybe in a system, like maybe somebody has set weak password or misconfigured the server improperly and things like
Okay.
that. Yeah, which can be
Now, okay, let me explain something. The Shodan search engine is to show you devices connected to the internet. So if there's a misconfiguration on a server, it doesn't concern Shodan. It will show you that device is available and show you what protocol and what service is running on that device. That's his own job. All right. It's now for you to now, for instance, now, sometimes you can see maybe an operating system or a remote desktop using what we call Telnet. Telnet is not a reliable protocol because it reveals password in open text, in plain text. So if there's that kind of protocol running, Shodan will show you that's the protocol running, that's the service that's running the protocol, and that's where the location is. That's the job of Shodan. It's a search engine. It's just like Google. Google will give you all the information about what you're asking it. It's now left for you to now know how you're going to use the information. So if there's a misconfiguration on a particular service, Shodan will not show you it might not show you the actual password, but to tell you that service is running, that's the location, and those are the port numbers that are associated with it. That's Shodan's job. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes, he said okay. Yes, and I think that's why when we start talking about, because when you have infrastructure that is loaded, maybe like in the cloud, isn't it? It becomes easier for you to scan your own configurations for things like this kind of loopholes. So you can see why we are going to be moving forward.
Because
Yes.
the reason why most companies also want to use Shodan to be sure is just to know if you are exposed. Because you might not know. You might think that our network is protected, or we've used an IDS system, a firewall is running, but is it actually protecting you? Shodan will show you that, hey, you're not protected. Your information is out there. Someone can see it. That's where pen testers start to understand, does that make sense? Of course, when we go further, after getting some information from Shodan, all right, there are other ways you can actually then try and break down and filter through the information. Does that make sense? All right? Of course, when we go into more classes, we can always have that conversation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Falabi. And I'm happy to tell that some responses are coming in. Somebody has scored 90 over 100. So your teaching.
Good. That's very good. Impressive.
Your teaching is working. Shows that your teaching is working perfectly. So please, let's continue putting in these forms. If there is no more question, remember, we just don't want to keep us too long.
Yes.
Left for us, we are teachers. We know how many hours. The other day I was in class from 9 o'clock to 8 p.m. We know how many hours that we will spend. Yeah. Although the next day I was totally free, doing nothing. So that's how my class runs. Yeah. We don't want to keep us waiting too long online. So let's continue answering these questions. Before next week, we are going to send a proper assessment to our emails.
Yes.
If you know you are interested in getting a certificate, and mind you, our certificate is not certificate of attendance. We are going to put everything you learned on the certificate. It's very strong, and it's also going to help your career. So if there's any question, you can paste it. If not, then we'll just continue working on the quiz. I'll be taking the responses, and then we'll pass other information. If you have not joined the WhatsApp group, please do that. So I think the WhatsApp group already. Okay, so that seems not to be any question, but I can see that the responses in the quiz are coming in very fast. Very good. Okay, so I will keep on monitoring that, and then we'll meet next week. Of course, you know the WhatsApp group, and you know my number. If you have any question, please let us know. Dr. Falabi, thank you very, very much. In fact, you have made this session, you've made it really, really, really at the highest quality. And everybody, you can see that everybody is still here, just waiting, listening, following to show that people are really, really interested and happy.
Yeah. So for the guys that come for next week, we can go into career conversation. So like I told you guys, aside from my academic background, I have an industrial background in the United Kingdom. So I can always share my knowledge of exactly where you can start from, how you can pick it up. So I'll be here to give you even more.
Dr. Falabi will be here next week. It will be a very, very interesting conversation, career-wise. It's going to show us, talk us through where we need to start. We started already.
Yes.
Obviously, this is a very, very solid
The conversation has started, yes.
Exactly. And then how we are going to continue.
Yes.
All right. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, sir.
Thank you very
Anytime,
much.
sir. Anytime,
All right.
sir.
Okay.
All right, sir. All right.
All
Bye.
right. Bye. Bye. Yeah.